How's it going, everyone? Good morning, and this is another episode of the Happy Doc podcast. If you guys do not know who I am Dr. Taylor Brana. I'm a resident in psychiatry, and I'm very excited to record today. Let's get this episode. I want to let you guys know that I've been busy working on a few projects, so I'm going to be processing some guest episodes coming up very soon. That is the most time-intensive part of the podcast, and I want to make sure that our guests are well highlighted. So please be on the lookout for those episodes in the future. In the meantime, I'm going to be throwing out these daily podcast episodes as always, and I hope you're having an amazing day today. So let's get into this one. So I have a friend who made an interesting equation, and at first it might not make complete sense, but I'm going to try to explain that for you. So the equation is simple. It's work divided by reflection equals time. It's work divided by reflection equals time. And that equation might not make complete sense initially, but it's really important to use that equation. So in life, if you are not looking at your work processes and you aren't reflecting on them in a big way and also maybe in a small way, you will lose out on time. So I'm a big fan of increasing time, as you guys might tell in the theme of this podcast, because our life is going to come to an end. We have a finite amount of time, and it is so important that we enjoy the parts of our lives. Enjoy the seconds, the minutes, the hours, and the days of our lives. If we want to enjoy our lives more, if we want to build a happy life, it would be best be filled with time that we can spend on the things that we want to spend on. That's the reason why we set things like priorities. We look at things like our values. We create goals, because we want to have our time allocated into the areas that we want most in life. So in life, again, you're going to have specific work that you do, correct? You have certain processes in life that you do. In your occupation, you have certain things that you do on a consistent basis. On a daily basis while you're at home, you have certain things that you might do consistently. I'm going to put all that in the box of work, okay? So that is work. Now, what do I mean by reflection? So on a daily basis, if we're continuously doing similar habits, similar routines, if we're approaching those tasks in a similar way, you are going to get the same results. Meaning, again, if you do the same thing the same way all the time, you'll get the same results, right? That's no surprise to anyone. So that reflection piece is what's really important. And I often find when I'm working with different people, whether it's in a coaching setting or just talking about, things with them, we're missing the reflection piece and the introspective piece where we look inside ourselves, where we take a look at what we're doing, where we look at our skill sets and reflect on what might be lacking. Reflect on what might be missing. Now, if you are listening to lots of podcasts, if you have a coach, if you have some friends that are, operating at a pretty high level, they might be able to give you some insight. But if you don't even know that you're missing something, if you don't even know that you could be more efficient, that you could do your work with a higher level of quality, what have you, it's kind of hard to correct, right? So my recommendation always is one of a few things. One is to find someone that's further ahead along in you in life, whether it's something that maybe it's something that you'd like to achieve further on. For example, if you're a physician, maybe you see a specialist that's working at a higher level. You want to reach out to them. If it's in business, you want to reach out to someone who's operating their business at a higher level, what have you. Whatever you want to reach, having that mentor there to tell you or to teach you the things that you might be missing in that reflection piece will allow you to operate at a higher level, at a more effective level, right? And that, again, will increase your time. If you do not have that option, or you're not sure if you have that option, another way to look at it is to read books or listen to podcasts in the field of interest. I often call this the mobile university. It's the university that's completely free and out there in the world, and is just all that information is just available to you. I also like to talk about serendipitous information. Sometimes you don't know when a certain idea is going to come into your mind, or you are inspired by something, and that's kind of like that random sort of information you get in your mind when you least expect it. It's like when you're going on a walk, or you're going for a workout, or you just take a little break and all of a sudden an idea comes into your mind. That's why that reflection piece is so important. You identify areas in your life that you want to correct. You identify areas you want to become more efficient in. And then you allow that serendipitous or coaching session or mobile university sort of take you over. And then all of a sudden that information comes in a blast, and boom, you have that new boon, that new gem. And then that can translate into more time or more effectiveness, right? So that piece of information that comes to you in a second, the real test is once you are provided that piece of information, are you going to act on it? Are you going to take that reflection piece, take that information, and act in a way that's going to let you operate at a higher or more effective level? Now, one way that I can think of that makes this kind of idea very simple are tools that we often do not think about that are out there that can make things more efficient for us. So some tools that people might not be aware of in this conversation. For example, when I was having issues scheduling my podcast, because obviously, people are reaching out, they want to be guests or what have you, I needed a way to schedule. I had no idea that this thing called Calendly existed until I had interviewed another guest and he had mentioned the tool. So luckily I was looking for a tool like that, right? I was thinking about it and I had asked the question, what tools are you using? Because you're doing a great job. And that guest had told me one of the tools he used was Calendly. As soon as I implemented that tool, all of a sudden I was much more efficient in the scheduling portion of my podcast. And again, that translated into more time to focus on things like my creative process when it came to the podcast. So I give you guys that as an example, because if we don't do our work and add in that reflection piece, work over reflection, we're not going to get that time that we ultimately, I believe, desire. And again, this is an ongoing process. I don't think there really is a perfect way to do things, but I do think that there are tools out there to make us more efficient. I do think that there are ways for us to be a little bit more energetic in the way that we operate. And I do believe that ultimately, when we find those ways of improving, of enhancing, we can give that knowledge to others. We can give that knowledge to ourselves. We can enact that knowledge and ultimately increase our time, be happier, and focus our energy on things that we really enjoy. So I hope you guys love that episode for today. If you guys have any questions, as always, reach out to us. The link is at Happy Doc Podcast and all of our social media. You can take an email or send an email to thehappydoc1@gmail.com. And I wish you an amazing day. Take care, and I'll see you on the next episode.